Welcome viewers to the Personal Injury Law Show. This is a show that talks about work accidents, car accidents, slips and falls, medical negligence, anything to do with getting injured. My name's Tony Carbone. I'm a personal injury lawyer of over 25 years experience. With me tonight I've got Sarah Snowden. Good evening, Sarah.
Evening, Tony. How are you going? And
we're also privileged to have Holly Dorbar. She's a campaign manager from LifeWise. Flew down from Sydney for the show. Thanks for joining us, Holly.
No, thanks very much for having me. Thank you.
And just quickly in the news tonight, we've got an article about Crim's missed TAFE cuts. Sarah, what this talks about is this. The Victorian government's cut back significantly on TAFE funding. Crim's have got an increase. And last night in the news, we had the Lilydale campus of Swinburne University closed down altogether. 240 job losses.
It's a big loss, isn't it, Tony? It's a bit concerning because obviously it seems that if you are just trying, once you finish school, to actually get out and get some sort of education, you're being penalised in some way because the funding's not there, while the people that have done the wrong thing and are actually in jail are getting an increase.
But just on that, Holly, if you've got a criminal being educated in the prison system, will it help get them back into society in some sort of a role apart from their usual occupation?
Oh, look, my view is education can only help, and if you educate people, they can make informed decisions and they can get out there and contribute in a meaningful way to the society.
So it's a part of their rehabilitation, guys.
That's right. I don't think that it should be cut off completely. I think it should be accessible, but at the same time, it's got to be weighed up between where the money's going, whether it's going to the general public that are doing the right thing, or whether it's going into rehabilitation. So there has to be an even split.
The other thing about that story is that a lot of students that were on campus that relied on the campus to live are going to be kicked out, and they're going to have difficulty trying to find alternative accommodation. Anyway, the next story is depressed, question mark. You've got Buckley's chance of getting insurance. Sarah, what does that mean?
Basically, what has happened is, in some instances, not in all, the insurance companies are asking really pointed questions about pre-existing conditions, in this case mental health. I don't know the full extent as to what particular questions they would be asking, but it seems that they don't care whether people are having treatment or not. If you've had some sort of mental state in the past, whether it be stress or trouble sleeping, that it may, in some instances with some companies, stop you from becoming insured.
Well, Sarah, the gist of the article is mainly that their concern is that in some cases people with severe depression could become a suicide risk. So what in effect it means is that someone will claim on the policy. But look, we'll come back to this because tonight's topic of conversation, viewers, is under-insurance. That is, are we properly insuring ourselves for our lives, superannuation, insurance cover in case you can't work, income protection, trauma cover. Now, Holly, what are the stats on people being underinsured in this country?
Through the LifeWise campaign, we are an underinsurance awareness campaign about getting information out there for Australians. We found that 95% of Australians don't have the right levels of cover in place. 95%? Yeah, so it's obviously a huge number, and it's a big issue, and it's one that is really important for people to think about the risks that they face and how simple it is to put the right level of cover in place these days.
And Sarah, the ones that are insured, the stats say that you are insured up to 20% of what your needs are.
Yes, Tony, unfortunately it seems that people that do have insurance haven't insured themselves to a level that will adequately cover them, their mortgage, their family's needs, if at some point in their life they get ill or have an injury that stops them from working.
Now, Holly, being underinsured or not insured, why is it a problem?
It's a huge problem for Australian families, and what we like to say is you're working so hard to build a lifestyle, to send your children to the school you'd like to send them to take family holidays every year. If something were to happen, and the stats show 1 in 5 parents are likely to suffer an injury or illness or death during their working life, they won't earn an income, what happens when that goes away? You won't be able to keep on building that lifestyle, and everybody suffers. It's not just the person who suffers the injury or the illness, it's the ones who are in the family who are left behind to pick up the pieces.
Well, Sarah, assuming someone loses a limb, right, and then they're going to fall back on their insurance cover, and obviously with the loss of a limb you're going to develop depression, etc., etc. isn't the problem that if you're not insured or underinsured, you got that to try and get over, and you might lose your house? Isn't that the real issue?
That's right, Tony. It seems that a lot of people, the first thing we do when we buy an asset, either a car or a house, is go out and take adequate insurance cover out to cover that asset. Unfortunately, what happens when you are struck down by an injury or an illness and you can't work is that if you don't have the adequate amount of cover, they're usually the first assets that actually you lose.
And just on that, Holly, I'd has to guess that the majority of people have got adequate insurance on cars and houses.
Yeah, what we found is that about 83% of Australians insure their car, but only 31% insure their income. Your car might be worth $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, but your income can be worth millions over your lifetime. So it's not a sensible financial decision. If you want to take the emotion out of it sensibly, the financial decision you should take is to insure your income.
And just on that point, a lot of people take out hire purchase agreements on their cars, etc., etc. So if by any chance you're not insured for income protection, you may lose that car.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden the thing that you've insured because you think it's valuable, you won't be able to keep it because you can't maintain the cost.
That's right, Tony.
And the other issue too, Holly, is that leaving aside coverage on people's lives, we're all underinsured on houses and cars. Is that correct?
That's right. So there's still a level of underinsurance in houses and cars as well, and I think one of the key examples, particularly here in Victoria, were the bushfires. There was a significant level of underinsurance. Houses weren't covered, but also interestingly, we have research that showed just $10 million was paid out in life insurance claims compared to the $1 billion or over $1 billion paid out in house and contents.
That's extraordinary, isn't it?
And so you just have to put it all in perspective, but we say at LifeWise, get the right level of cover in place. It's a simple thing to do.
I read a stat the other day that said that we're about $1.something trillion underinsured, which is quite extraordinary, isn't it? Now, cost of insurance, is it expensive, Holly?
Insurance has never been more affordable than it is today. There are so many ways you can access insurance. You can go online, you can go to see a financial advisor, or you can go through your superannuation fund. And if you go through your super fund, the money's not even coming out of your pay packet.
Now, do we know more or less what it would cost to say, let's say you're earning $1,200 a week. What would it cost you per day to insure you for income protection? Do you know what the figures are, Sarah, roughly?
It varies depending on what occupation they're in, Tony. If you're in a high risk area, the price will obviously escalate based on that. But it can be from just a couple of dollars a day.
Is that correct?
That's correct. Less than a cup of coffee a day.
And I'll tell you what, I drink about 10 coffees a day. So based on that stat, I should have coverage to cover me 4 times in case of an accident. Viewers, we've got to go to a sponsors break, so please stay tuned. We'll be back just after the break.